Hey guys, you're welcome to the video where we'll be talking about error handling in Zig. Here we'll be talking about how errors are declared, handled, and the different error management strategies Zig provides. So we're going to start with error sets. So error sets work like enums, and we just specify the set of errors that we expect to be returned by a specific function. So error sets are the same as just defining a type. So let's just go ahead and try to define an error set here. So just so you know, Zig does not have exceptions. So we use error sets to specify possible errors that can be returned. So here we're going to define a playback errors or playback error. And then we're going to use this error keyword and then a block to define the possible error values. So here we have IO error, out of memory, stack overflow, stream corrupted, and let's see, yeah, bad shit happened, you know. So this is the set of errors that we can get from this particular error type. So now what we can do with this is just like regular values, we can construct an instance of this error. So we can do something like playback error, the stream corrupted. And what we can also do is print this out so we can see, and let's do some any. And if we print this and we do zig build run, then you should see error the stream corrupted printed out here, right? So there we go. Now we could also have a superset of errors, and so the way that works is we could have something like another kind of error here where we do memory error, and this is going to be an error that says out of memory. And here you can see that this actually has some common error types. As we define out of memory here, we also define out of memory here. So we can think of the playback error as a superset of this memory error. So what this means is we can now do, let's just change this to memory error dot out of memory. And what we can now do is check here to see if it's the same kind of error. And so we're gonna do error is playback error dot out of memory. Let's save that and run the program. And now we're going to see that we should get true, because out of memory is the same as we have the same key basically, or the same value for this. So the way Zig does it is, it's going to take all of the possible error types and it's going to like put them into a specific like a global error structure. So we're going to have like a superset, which is going to be like all the errors put into one place. So memory error is just a subset of playback error, which is also a subset of the global error type. So this is why it's possible to do something like this. So this allows us to build, specialized errors for some functions, and we can also coerce those values to superset of errors and do all those kind of crazy stuff. So now, let's talk about error unions, because we're going to have to. So let's say we wanted to create a function to play a song. So we're gonna do, and then play song, and we want to be able to determine whether the function is going to succeed with a result or it's just going to give us back an error. So I'm going to simulate that by providing a boolean parameter here, and it's going to be, we're going to return a playback error or a boolean. So you can see this is what an error union looks like. And so error union is a combination of a type and an error set. So this is the error set, and then you have this bang operator, and then you have the type that you want to specify. So what this means is that you could get an error or you could get a specific value. So this is what this means. So this could contain an error or it could contain whatever value that you're supposed to have here, right? So let's just try to implement this. So we're gonna do if not succeed, which means that this function should not succeed. So we're gonna return a playback error dot io error, and then if it succeeds, we're gonna return true, right? So this is a very simple function. And so what we could do now is let's build something that's not going to succeed. I'm just gonna delete this. Const result, play song, say don't succeed, and we're gonna log the result and result. And if we see this, we should get error.io error. Oh yeah, we need to specify the any type here. Let's not forget that. And run this. And you can see we get error.io error. So this works as we expect. So when we build something that's going to succeed, we're going to want to start catching errors. So for example, here, let's say if when we return an error, we might want to transform the response or the result, the error, to something that we could use to continue function execution, or we might want to propagate the error to whatever function is calling this function, and all those crazy stuff. So we're going to be dealing with trying and catching errors. And like I said, Zig does not have exceptions. So the concept of trying and catching errors is actually quite different from most other programming languages, where you just throw an error and then it's caught on somewhere and all those things, right? So the way it works is, let's take a look at catching errors first of all. So let's say that for this, when we call play song and we pass in false, we could catch the error to give us a default value. So currently we have this function where we're just printing out the error. So say we don't want this, right? We want to convert this to either a boolean. In this case it returns true, or we might want to just get ourselves a false when we get an error. And the way to do that, the simplest way to do that, is to use this catch expression, and then we specify false here. So what this is going to do is this is going to catch the error, and then it's going to discard the error and just give us a false value. So the result is now going to be exclusively a boolean. And if we want the type system to help us with this, if we want the compiler to help us with this, we could just do bool. And you'll see that if I now try to build the program and run, we should not have any issues, and it should just print false. So that's exactly what's going on. So now we're calling the function, we're catching whatever error and just returning false to say, hey, we don't care about the specific error. We get an error and we're just going to change whatever value we have here to something like a default and continue on with the program execution. So that is quite straightforward. Now, in some cases though, we don't want to do this. We might have some complex logic on, okay, say we want to return false when the error is an IO error, and we want to return from this function if the error is not an IO error. So the example is going to be, if we get an IO error, then we're going to take false and we can continue with the program execution. But any other error here we don't want to handle, and we're just going to stop running the program. So the way to do this is we're just going to do we're going to take the error block here, and then we're going to do this. Let me format this correctly. There we go. So we're going to do if error is error.io error, and we're going to break false, I'm going to get to this in a minute, and we're going to return the error. And this isn't going to work at the moment. You can see we have an error here. It says break expression outside loop, right? What this means is that in order for us to get the false value back to this result, we need to be able to break into or break back to the result and say this is the value we want. And we can do this using labels in Zig. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to have a label. Say this is going to be a block, and then we're going to break from the block just like that. And so what we're going to have here now is it's going to initialize the label, and then we're going to break into the label, and we can assign the value to what we want here. And now if we don't have an IO error, we're just going to return the error, right? Right. We're not going to return the error. We're going to return from the main function. I think this is correct, right? So we're going to do zig build run, and you can see we get ourselves false. And this is because we have the error is actually an IO error. So if I change this to out of memory, then you're gonna see that the program should not print anything on the screen, and it should just finish, because what's going to happen here is it's just going to return and nothing is going to be printed. We're never going to get to this particular part of the code, right? So one thing you should notice is that here I'm not actually using the playback error type. Here I'm using error.io error, so I could substitute this with the playback error, and this is still gonna work fine, right? The reason I'm showing you this is, remember when I told you that we have the amalgamation of all errors into one global error type? So this is what is responsible for that. You can use error.any error type on the system, and this is going to work. Okay, so this is just showing you that this is how you're going to do this depending on what. So if you're trying to handle any kind of error, you can always use this to specify the error kind, and if it's the value, then you're gonna get what you're looking for. And so the next thing we want to talk about is propagating errors, right? So let's say that in this case we don't want, so you can see here we're actually catching the error, and we're doing the error handling ourselves. So let's say that we don't want to handle the error in the current function, in the main function, maybe because we have error handling in a centralized place, or the function does not expect to handle errors itself. Then we can just propagate the error to the colon function by using the try keyword. So this is the main function. So if I propagate anything from the main function here, then you're going to see that you're not going to be able to see the effect, basically, because the program is just going to crash. But let me show you what I'm trying to say here. So the first thing we're going to do is, just as we have annotated the return type here, we're also going to specify the same thing on the main function. So we're going to do playback error, and we're going to do the void. There we go. So we're gonna do the error union thing here, and now what we could do is we're going to remove all of this, and I'm going to right. So we're going to now do a try expression. So what does this mean? This means that we're telling the compiler to try to get us a boolean. If we get an error, send the error to the color of this function. So in this case, the color is the main function. So it's going to return an error to the main function, and then the program is going to crash, because whatever is calling the main function is going to check that we have an error, and then it's just going to crash the program and print a stack trace. So let's check this and see. So we're gonna run, and there we have an error, and yep, you can see it actually gives us an out of memory error. So just after building and running the program, we have this out of memory. And to be able to see this properly, I'm going to create a new function call, like, I'm just gonna call this function parent, and then here, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all the code here, we're gonna copy it, let me just do the copying, and then I'm gonna paste the code here. And now what I want to do is, so you can see here, I'm just going to simulate exactly what I was doing in the main function here, and now we're gonna see that this is going to propagate. So I'm gonna call this function here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to call parent, and then I'm going to catch the error, just like that, and I'm going to, so I'm not going to switch on the error yet, because we could just return so we don't let the code crash. I need a semicolon here. Yeah, I could delete this, since we're not gonna do the error handling. And so this is what we end up with, right? We call the parent function, we catch the error, and then we return. We could also print the error here though, and just, yeah, std log info, got error, and then we could print out the error like this, right? Okay, there we go. So now if I try to run, barring any syntax error, you can see that what now happens is we have this got error out of memory, right? So it calls the parent function, and then the parent function calls the playsong function here, and the playsong function returns an error. And so it takes that error, it doesn't run this line because we don't have a valid result, and so it just sends the error back to the main function, and the main function now handles that error and prints something out to the screen. Now, of course, if we want to properly handle the error, what we could do is switch on the error, playback error dot out of memory, playback error dot stack overflow, and then we could do something like an else to catch everything, and then we're gonna do this. Oh yeah, we don't have to have a semicolon there. And so we could properly handle all the errors here, and this is how you would switch over the errors, and this is how you would catch any other error that could happen on the system that you did not, because we have like 5 or 6 different kind of errors here, and there we go. So that is how you propagate errors using try expression. Now this is actually equivalent, so this try is actually a shortcut. So if I delete this, you find that the try is a shortcut for this. Really simple. This is all that the try expression does, right? So if I do zig build run again, you're gonna see that we should still got error, because we're still getting errors, of course. And so it's the same as doing this, and so the try is just a shortcut for that. There we go. So sometimes we might call a function that returns an error, but we want to tell the compiler that, hey, you know what, this function is not going to return an error because we know that the value we pass to the function, or the parameters passed to the function, will not cause an error. So in this case, we might want to force unwrap the actual value from the error, and to do this is actually simple. So I'm going to remove the try, and then I'm going to go to the end, and to do this we're just going to do catch unreachable. So what this is going to do is it's going to be okay, it's going to check that we don't have an error, and then it's going to give us the results. And you see that we're not actually catching anything. We're just saying we cannot get an error in this case. And if we do get an error, then the program is going to crash. If I run the code as is, then we're going to get an error because we're still returning an error here, right? So you can see we have a bunch of errors, and here it says, yeah, we'll get all these things. And then if we go to the top of the stack, you see we have out of memory here, right? The thread just panicked. And that is it. And if we now change this to true, you see that everything works as expected, and we don't need to do any elaborate error handling here, right? Now, errors could also be inferred. So in this case, you see we're specifying the type of error that we're expecting to be returned here, but this can be omitted. So in this case, for example, I could delete this. I need to add this exclamation though. So if I delete this, it's still gonna work, but this is going to be an inferred error. So depending on the kind of error that is returned, it's what is going to be inferred here. And here could this will also happen with this. You can also do this, or you can use any error. So any error is a type that is going to take in any kind of error that could happen on the entire application. So there we go. That's how this is working. You could also check this. If I change this back to false and I run it again, you see that it still works, right? So it shows I'm not lying or anything like that. Yeah, we still get errors as we expect. And if we check, we still have our out of memory. And one last thing I'd like to show you is merging errors, right? So remember we have memory error here, but we could also have some other kind of error that does not exist in the playback error. So we could do something like, I don't know, memory out of memory or something like that. So maybe the memory went out of memory. Yeah, okay, this is crazy. So what we could do with that is we could do like global, or we could call it app errors, and then we could do playback error and the memory error. And so what this can let us now do is it's going to take the playback error and the memory error and merge them into one specific kind of error. And let me just delete this. And now, damn it. And now if I save this, we're going to run, and you can see that we still get errors as expected. Playback error dot out of memory error. And that'll be all for this video. I hope you were able to learn something. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.